That's fine though. Scotty has a lot of. Okay, we're doing the Sulis code. All right. I guess we can just restart everything. That's fine. No big deal. So welcome everyone to Metroid 100%. This for the NES. This is an exciting category and one that I've played a little bit. So I have a little bit of knowledge. There's about 21 missile packs, 8 E-tanks, and a plethora of other like smaller items that are important to get, like Maru. But for the most part, it's mainly going to be a lot of missile cleanup, if I'm being honest. There are 5 different areas: Brinstar, Norfair, Ridley, Kraid, and Torian. For now, we're just in Brinstar, and we're going to be here a little bit. This is the start. Oh, there's no sound. This is just the starting area, and we're on our way to get a lot of interesting little things we can do to that you'll see Scotty like in a while. Oh shit. This will be key for getting a faster time later on. It'll be nice for when we. It's nice for grabbing different missiles like pretty early or not. It'll makes you have to like. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired, but it makes certain rooms a lot easier to go through since you have to. You might have to like wait half a second, but it makes for an easier setup to get through the room, which is nice and saves time in a lot of different places, especially when you manipulate like rooms in advance for a lot of these different ones. So we got the missiles like quite a bit ago, but now we're on our way to Ice Beam, which you saw a little bit of a spoiler of. To get to the Ice Beam, we're going to have to be using a glitch known as screen wrapping, where we purposely get ourselves stuck in the door. And we do a series of morphs and unmorphs, and that'll allow us to wrap up the screen. There are many different cases of using the unmorphs to find. Get to different places where you shouldn't be. In this particular case, we're just going to be going in the door and then wrap up and go through the bottom of the screen. It's probably the most simple one in terms of understanding, since the screen just wraps when you're not moving with it. But there are many like other ones that are different. You'll see Scotty do a little quick jump to get a couple different less wraps in, and it's nice having to deal with all that without having to deal with all that stuff. And now we're on the way to Ice Beam. And besides the annoying bugs in this room, it's not too bad to get. Sometimes the bugs will snipe you and you'll die, but Scotty's fine in health this time around. But the important thing about Ice Beam is that now we have a lot of fancy new tricks to do. Ice Beam is very important and helps with a lot of cheeses, but for now, Scotty has to get 5 missiles. He has to get 5 missiles in the form of 3 missile drops so he can get bombs. This is unfortunately the biggest reset for RNG in this category, and it doesn't look like we've gotten. Yep, there we go. Microphone issues, but we should be back now. I don't know when it cut out. But we got missiles, and that was the biggest source of RNG for this category, which is a nice start. We didn't get a fantastic RNG, but we got past the worst of it. Unfortunately, we have to deal with some other stupid RNG. It's a bit annoying. Not RNG. The RNG in this category now is going to be in the form of missile drops. And missile drops are fine, but the annoying part comes when you need them to save like a couple seconds, which we'll find in Norfair. In Brinstar, it's not a big deal anymore. Now we're on our way to the Varia suit. And the Varia suit's fun because it allows you to take more damage in the form of just resistance. It cuts all the damage in all the rooms by half, and it means we can take more damage boosts. To get into Varia, though, we're going to do a very interesting wrap that has been discovered relatively recently, and it's really fun to do. It's also very consistent. We'll see Scotty doing it really quickly, or soon, I mean. And it involves getting stuck in the door and wrapping up 16 times, and then you can jump to the left, and this will get you stuck in some walls that are only traversable through jumping, and that allows you to get to the extra height so that you can basically get up to the door that you'd otherwise have to bomb jump up to. And this is really nice because this takes out like a very pivotal reset that used to be in the run, which is the Varia jump. Now we don't have to worry about that at all. We can just go there, and it's really nice. We can just be there, and we're out. And now that we have the Zero suit, we can see Samus's wonderful green hair dye, and it's it's a shame that it's not here more often, but what can you do? Now that we've grabbed everything in Brinstar except for one E-Tank, which we'll come to later. So for now, we're actually going to leave to Norfair. Besides a couple emulation and movement tricks, there isn't too much left in Brinstar, if I'm being honest, besides just being a thing we have to travel through. Oof, almost got it. But, because all the interesting stuff's going to happen in Norfair. Norfair is the most annoying part, at least in terms of consistency, because it's just not. There's a lot of things happen all the time, and it's the longest segment of the category. We have to spend like 11 minutes in Norfair 1, and that's the longest big chunk of any room we have to go through. But it's the most interesting and has the neatest tricks, and that's what we're off to now. One thing that'll be important later that I don't think Scotty has done too much of, that's like pivotal movement for Metroid, is something called an unmorph jump. If you go into a ball and like roll off an edge or propelled into air into some way, and you unmorph, that stores a jump really. So it makes some like frame perfect tricks more easier to do, and it also has a lot of different movement. It allowed you to see what Scotty jump out of a pit earlier. He did a quick unmorph, and he was able to jump higher by a little bit. It's not too used, but it's very helpful movement. And now we're on to Norfair. You'll see Scotty go to the left and pick up some missiles, and then we're going to do a nice quick wrap. One thing that should be mentioned is the globular patterns of words of the game. The game run that has many different globular patterns, but there's two different like types as far as Scotty's concerned, and that's like good pattern and bad pattern, named arbitrarily. Basically, what this means is that as far as we're concerned, there's two different types. There's many different subtypes of that, but two different types we care about, and they basically affect mainly how the bosses behave. Sometimes they'll be, if it's bad pattern per se, Ridley will throw hers. I actually don't know. Her fireballs shorter and it'd be more annoying to deal with, as we'll see Scotty deal with, since he does have bad patterns. And same thing with Kraid, he'll throw his bananas a little bit closer to himself than normal, and it's kind of annoying to deal with. But the good pattern doesn't have that. You can just go right in underneath and hide, and it's really easy to do. But for now, we'll do the Norfair wrap. This tech was recently added to, and it's kind of difficult to explain, but it involves getting stuck into a door using like a frame perfect maneuver, and then now you're able to wrap up. Normally you'd have to go through the door and re-enter it, but that's slow and takes like 4 seconds more. So we just do the easier or the harder one naturally. We have to do lava jumps. Lava jumps are kind of annoying since it's kind of stupid. The best place to jump in lava is at the top of the lava and at the bottom of the lava. If you jump in the middle of the lava, what will actually happen is your jump will be stunted and you won't actually be able to make it up to certain platforms, which is why you'll see people wait a little bit if they aren't able to jump immediately. Like CScotty was able to sink all the way to the bottom before he actually do another jump. So that's just kind of what lava does. Sometimes you'll accidentally jump too early and it'll be annoying to do because you'll have to re-jump since it won't be high enough, but hopefully we won't see any of that. Yeah, this is another form of RNG in the run. It's not run ending like the bomb RNG was when you saw earlier, but it's basically different missiles drops in Norfair are going to be annoying to do since, oh thank god, since the different missiles will save you time, as you've been seeing. He's been using missiles very to his advantage, and unfortunately he does need missiles to open red doors, which is about 5 per. Well, it's exactly 5 per, and if he doesn't have enough, then I'll have to farm. So ideally he gets enough missiles so he can use the time saves and open the red doors at the same time, which doesn't always happen. It also depends on how many missiles you end up actually using, but it's another form of RNG in Norfair, and it's kind of stupid and annoying. But the one thing that's interesting to note is because Scotty's running on the Game Boy. Oh, he grabbed Wave Beam. I forgot. Thank you. Wave Beam is annoying because Wave Beam never seems to actually hit the thing you want it to, but it's what we need to do for 100%. You'll see Wave Beam also allows us to shoot right at the feet and also does double damage. So it has some perks over Ice Beam because you can kill things more easily since it has double the damage of normal beam, and Wave Beam or Ice Beam does half the damage as the normal beam. So technically it's 4 times more damage than Ice Beam, but it's still more annoying since it never seems to hit anything. Fortunately, Scotty's been doing fine on actually like hitting things, which is a good start to it, but sometimes Wave Beam will just completely miss the object that it's trying to hit, or hit too many blocks, as we fortunately didn't see here. There's a set amount of blocks you can do or break with these. I believe it's 11 or 12 breakable blocks. If you break about 11 or 12, then you won't be able to break anymore, and you'll have to wait for some blocks to respawn. And it's kind of annoying, and it just wastes time. And Wave Beam likes to shoot like 10 of them at once sometimes, and then you have to wait. It's just annoying to deal with. But one thing I wanted to mention, since Scotty's running this game in the Game Boy version, which always has the bad version, it always has the specific bad version of the seahorses not shooting. If the seahorses are not shooting, then it's 100% bad pattern, and there's only one type of pattern where the seahorses aren't shooting. The globular patterns affect more than just Kraid and Ridley. Just most of them only affect them the ways we care about. So now that we've grabbed all the items in Lower Norfair. We're going to be going back up to the Upper Norfair, well, Mid Norfair really. In a specific area, we're going to Screw Attack. And Screw Attack is nice because it allows us to screw attack through things we shouldn't be normally able to, but at the same time it's going to be kind of annoying since it also causes more lag, so it's a bit of an up and down. There's no item in this game that's grabbed for 100% is very helpful. Like, they're nice additions, but they're never truly just helpful. They always have to come with a lot of downsides. So we'll see Screw Attack, and we'll instantly see how much it lags. Actually, no, I forgot he doesn't have the dragons. With the dragons, this room is absolutely awful. But fortunately for us, we don't have to deal with more fireballs on the screen. Usually when there's 4 or more sprites, the game just kind of stops working. When you see a lot of enemies on the screen and Scotty do a Screw Attack, you'll just see how much the game slows down, especially in Torian when nothing feels like going at speed and the lag is constantly fluctuating. It's just a pain. But this room is a usually good showcase when the game just absolutely just comes to a crawl. And welcome to the Gumdrop Room. It's a nice one, or candy room. I guess they don't have to be. They're gumdrops to me. They're usually something different to everyone, but it's candy nonetheless. We're coming up on the only E-tank in the Norfair, which is usually surprising because it's the biggest area in the game. And after that, we're going to grab High Jump, which also has its perks and downsides, unfortunately. Scotty has unfortunately got very lucky with missiles, though. He has 9 missiles, which is much better than the recommended minimum, which is 5 or 6, technically. But you need 5, but 6 is usually recommended for this specific area. But he has 8, which is fantastic. Missiles stop becoming like important after you've killed Ridley. If you have enough after you've killed Ridley, then after you kill Ridley, it's less of actually needing missiles for time save and needing missiles for Torian, which you normally will always have. The extra missiles here are just helpful in terms of time save, in terms of killing Ridley, which is nice to have extra missiles here, but outside of that, we're not really needed. Here we're going to do another screen wrap, which involves this and a nice little bomb trick and going through an invisible doorway to transition the screen. In Metroid, there are 2 different types of door transitions. This is High Jump, by the way. It allows you to jump high. But there's 2 different types of doors, or rooms, I mean. There's horizontal rooms and there's vertical rooms. And they scroll horizontally or vertically. And since you saw Scotty was in the vertical transition that allowed him to go up, but since this room's a horizontal room, you have to find a way to reset it so that way it's back to like this traditional horizontal setting, which is why he had to jump back into the invisible doorway that wouldn't normally be there because it was stuck in the vertical position, so we had to switch it back to horizontal. If he were to go the other way, he'd actually be stuck in another vertical room, or horizontal room, I mean, which is fine, but that room is also another vertical room, so you'd just be stuck in like a 1x1 area, which is a little tidbit and fun. Now that we're not done with Norfair, but we're done for now. We have to grab a couple other missiles, but besides that, we're done. And now we're on to Ridley's Lair. The music's a bit more intense and dark, but it's fun. I actually have a personal hypothesis that the treble is cranked up too high, and the bass is actually the true melody. Because if you listen, the bass is a lot more actually interesting, while the treble is just kind of going do 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 do, and it's stupid. But regardless, we still have yet to deal with. Can't listen. What? Oh, you're right. Well, I hear that now, but I didn't know. I can hear it. Oh well, you're not missing out on much. A lot of people until we get to Kraid's Lair, the music isn't, well, my personal favorite track is Norfair, but everyone likes the Kraid music, but no one loves the sorry. No one likes the Ridley's Lair music. Anyway, so for now we're going to be doing just a couple Norfair pickup, or Ridley pickups. A lot of the room or route in this category is just grabbing things. That's why a lot of people usually don't like it, because it's pretty much just a collectathon. Oh wow, he just barely had enough missiles. There's a little troll pit here, so he has to do a quick jump, and then we're going to go right back through it. It's a lot of this stuff is just item pickup, as you'll see. Oh, there's Wave Beam being annoying. If you get too close to a door, Wave Beam will actually not hit the door. And then the big hop. It's just, it'll do it normally. Sometimes it'll just miss for enemies too, but it's also just annoying for doors. Here's the little unmorph trick I mentioned earlier. This jump normally is actually only a 2-frame window, and because it doesn't save that much time, everyone just does the unmorph trick. A lot easier to deal with. Unfortunately, oh, there's another troll block there too. Unfortunately for Scotty, it's just a small time save. We have mentioned the missile thing earlier. He only has 5 missiles, and that's fine. After the ability to fight, you'll always be at 0 missiles. But if you had like 13 missiles, you'd save a couple more seconds. It's not that big of a deal. It's just helpful, and just unfortunate time loss that you really can't control because of the RNG. But we'll see, Scotty. Ridley fight, I know I haven't talked about it much, but it's not too exciting. It's just kind of this, and you hug them, then you spam. It's not too exciting, really. Scotty has to deal with bad pattern, but as you can see, it's not that bad. You just kind of screw attack and stun lock. Oh, one thing I should mention is if you want to fire quicker than normal, if you hold the B button and spam another extra input, this will trick the game into firing many more times than you'd be able to just mash normally. So in this case, what most people do is either select or like a different directional input. Usually select, since you can just hold the B button and smash select, and select doesn't do anything besides just open missiles. But you know how it'd be. Here's another example of the game slowing to a crawl for just too many sprites on it. One annoying thing to deal with in this game is just the amount of varying lag, because you'll be in a room of high lag and then instantly transition to not that bad, and it makes timing the button presses very difficult, especially in touring, as we'll see later. But for now, we just have to deal with the ballroom. So Ridley's Lair is almost done. We only have one. We only have one missile pack left to pick up, and that's fun. It's the most loneliest one out there. It's the other lonely missiles, and what can you do? You have to go through a really, really long trek of just purple, and that's another reason why a lot of people usually stray away. It's just a massive collectathon, especially in Norfair, where they reuse the same assets for rooms. And here you can see it too, how they copied pasted rooms. The game comes with a set number of tile sets for each area, and they just kind of copy and pasted some of the rooms when they were making this game, which is why a lot of the rooms look exactly the same. It's because they are the same. This purple room is synonymous to the same thing above, which is just kind of annoying. But it's what they did. It makes traversing through rooms relatively simple, since they're kind of the same. It's more obvious in Norfair, I think, when you have to go back to back in the same rooms. But yeah, life was tough on the NES. Although I think in terms of, oh, we're flooding. All right. I'll just ignore the flooding water. It's no problem. But now with that last missile pack, we're done with Ridley's lair, which is nice. Ridley's lair is no more. We've killed him and taken all of his stuff. So now we're just going to leave and pick up the rest of the missile packs in Norfair, which is nice because Norfair is the longest segment. You spend the most time in Norfair, I think, overall. Like Norfair 1 plus Norfair 2. Brinstar might be a close second, but Brinstar doesn't have anything exciting in it besides the first chunk of it. But anyway, welcome, friends. We are done with E, the colonial British Empire. Precisely. Kill people and take their stuff. But there's no one to really kill, no big bosses to kill in Norfair. It's just a hub to get to Ridley's lair and has a lot of stuff in it. You'll see a lot of interesting tricks. There's this next climb that we're about to see involves lag. Just dropped the input for Scotty there, but that's okay. It does that. There's a lot of dropped inputs that lag causes on the A and B buttons. It's kind of annoying, but it's something you just got to deal with in running this game. There are 3 different jumps on this next climb that involve like sub-pixel alignment, and there's all these old games, there's a lot of sub-pixels that deal with making acceleration a lot smoother, so it's not choppy. There's one right there, jump-wise, and unfortunately, this means that you won't make certain jumps based on your sub-pixel alignment. So even if you hold the button for as long as you can, whether your subpixels are aligned will make or break whether you actually get on a platform. And this is annoying for some jumps since it'll basically just lose time for something that's relatively out of your control. But it's something you really have to kind of assess while doing the run. It's a bit annoying, but what can you do? There's another unmorph jump. One thing I've forgotten to mention that we've already seen quite a lot of are the block clips. And the way those work, there's a lot of really fancy block clips, but they're also very important to how this game is run. But block clips, how they work is if you unmorph, if you're in a ball and then unmorph, and you're close to a block above you, then you can unmorph, then do a jump, and then that'll push you through the top block. This won't really matter because most of the time there's another blob above that block. But in the cases where there's a spare block above the block you're trying to clip through, you'll just go straight through the block, which is nice. So it allows you to basically skip having to deal with like waiting for the blocks to respawn, and it's just kind of annoying to do without. It's some block clips are easier than others, but for the most part, it's about like a 1 to 2 frame window. It doesn't feel that way usually because you can get it down pretty consistently, and if you fail, it doesn't take too long to do it again. But they're still really nice, and Scotty's an excellent case of just being able to do them right on the dot all the time. Scotty is, well, a runner in many different Metroid games, but especially Metroid. He's another wonderful player, of course. There's another sub-pixel jump that he is able to ace. Yeah, when Scotty was coming to this category, he just blew through top 5, and now he's just an excellent runner. Here's another great case I mentioned earlier of the devs just copy and pasting rooms. You'll notice that the missile area rooms are the exact same, and there's just 3 of them in a row, and we'll see another case where there's 2 of them in a row. It's really great. It's nice. It makes traversing through the rooms easier because you know exactly what to do. You just do it 3 times in a row. And we're going to be seeing more block clips soon here. And we're going to grab Ice Beam again, thankfully. Ice Beam is nice having since it doesn't miss targets. See? Excellent block clips. Scotty has, besides his block clips, he has excellent movement and other execution on tricks. Scotty is truly a wonderful player. in all Metroid games, but also especially this one. Another thing we haven't seen the game annoy us with is screw attack. Sometimes if you jump, if you jump into an enemy, screw attack will just kind of stop giving you invincibility, and it'll just give you a damage boost in the wrong direction. We haven't seen any of that from Scotty, fortunately. There are ways to avoid it, but sometimes it'll get you and you'll be cast down into the lava when you really don't want to. If dealing with annoying balls here. And here's Ice Beam. It's a long friend that we really truly miss. There's another block clip. But now they have Ice Beam back, the game gets a lot nicer. Don't have to deal with waving shenanigans of missing things or breaking too many. We haven't seen too much of that this run, thankfully. Scotty's been able to avoid a lot of Long Beam's shortcomings. But for now, we have Ice Beam, and Ice Beam's fine. One thing that should be noted, I mentioned earlier that the different beams have different damage values, and that is still true. But for the bosses, yeah, I mean, this feels like a trick weapon. I mean, sometimes it's helpful since it does give you double damage and it allows you to shoot at your feet, so you don't have to use bombs, but it's still just kind of annoying to deal with. At least in a speedrun's perspective, it might be nice casually, maybe, but Ice Beam's just kind of objectively better because it allows you to freeze stuff. One important thing, though, for damage-wise. Oh, and that was the last thing in Norfair. We're done with Norfair. We're done with Ridley. All that's left is you technically need ice to beat the game. It's casually you need ice, but there are some tricks you can do that's used in All Boss where you can go through Torian iceless, and this involves using a zombie glitch where if you die from a Metroid and press up on an elevator, then it allows Samus to be at 0 health, and then also she doesn't take any damage from any Metroids. So all you have to do then is go through Torian completely damageless, and you can do Torian without actually needing the Ice Beam. You won't see that in this run because it's kind of just a useless time loss, but it's used in categories like All Boss where Ice Beam is just annoying to have to trek back to deal with, but you don't technically need Ice Beam. Casually, though, you definitely pick up Ice Beam in this game. You'll see, Scotty, another interesting thing is because this room is divided up into chunks, 15 by 16 cubes or squared, you'll have like different borders, and if a screen is on exactly a border, enemies will bounce off it. That's why you see Scotty pause there a bit, because he's waiting for the one zoomer to bounce off the invisible wall that's only there because of the little chunks that the game is divided up into. And it's nice because it's not really helpful besides like the one scenario there, but it's nice when you can manipulate it. But that's why he does a little pause. Besides that one tank, we actually picked up almost everything in Bread Star. We still have one last thing, and that's Long Beam. I was blanking there, sorry. But for now, we have to go to Kraid's Lair, which I'm sorry if you can't hear the music, because this is the objectively best music in the entire game that everyone seems to love. But so I guess if you never heard it, just take my word, it's really nice. It's not my personal favorite, as I've mentioned before, but it's it's good music. Kraid's Lair is a lot shorter than Ridley's Lair and most other rooms, actually. Kraid's Lair, I think, is, besides Torian, is the shortest like segment area to be in. It doesn't have a lot of missiles, but it'll showcase some nice tricks, like this long fall. But coming up, we'll have to do another screen wrap. It's the last screen wrap we actually have to do. It's the Kraid wrap, but that doesn't really explain what it is. It involves there's many different forms. Any percent actually uses a variation of it, a different form of it, but the same-ish wrap nonetheless. It involves just wrapping back up and jumping into an out-of-bounds door, and that tricks the game into thinking that we're down in a room that we shouldn't be in, and then it allows us to like wrap through rooms. It'd be a very similar thing to what the Norfair wrap used to be, but because we use the fastest one. Yes, the Deathless, I forgot. The reason why this is Deathless, it's a different category. There's another cat where you do die, the 100% deaths, and that allows you, when you die, you spawn back at the start of a area. This area is Kraid, the other area is Brinstar, and this allows you to warp places if you die, and that's why it's Deathless, since you don't deal with that. You just go all through one single segment. If it was deaths, you'd see Scotty kill Kraid, he'd do a death warp using up A on the second controller, and he'll be taken back to the start of Kraid, so he doesn't have to backtrack through it, unlike the Kraid climb. And it's helpful, especially in places like Norfair. It's deaths. The death warping saves about 6 minutes, if I recall correctly. Yeah, 6 minutes over Deathless. I mean, so that's just how much backtracking there really is in the game. The deaths category is not as well played, and I believe on Game Boy Advance, the one that they're not the Game Boy player. I mean the one that Scotty's playing on. I don't think he can do a depth up A on a second controller, since I don't think it works the same way, which is interesting. I'm not too well versed in the actual hardware, so I can't speak too much on that specific quandary. But here's the Kraid climb. It's rather annoying. Scotty makes it look a lot easier than it is, but there's an annoying thing that can happen where you get damage boosted by like out of bounds respawning blocks, because it saves the block's position on the screen. It like wraps around. So if you break a block one screen like ago and standing in that specific spot again, if it respawns in that spot, it'll pretend that the block is there, and it'll damage boost you, and you'll fall off sometimes, and it's just a really annoying hassle to deal with, because it just makes the Kraid climb a lot more difficult than it really needs to be. But fortunately, we didn't see any of that. We just have to deal with the rest of Kraids later. Oh, that was nice. Bomb jumps in this game are especially annoying. You'll see Scotty blast through this. Kraid's layer is actually almost done. We have one last E-tank to grab for the rest of the game, and one last missile, and we have everything except one item, which is the best item in the game. Last E-tank. Okay, so a little tidbit is this game actually can only show Samus as having 6 E-tanks, and this you can only actually have 6 E-tanks in your hotbar, but there are 8 E-tanks in the game. So the other last 2 E-tanks just act as refillers and don't actually exist in the game. It's kind of weird, but you know, it's just how the game was made for the most part. You still have to pick them all up, of course. 80? Did I say 80? I meant 8. There are definitely not 80 E-tanks. That would be a lot of health, but we don't have to deal with that. So Kraid's dead, and we took all his stuff, so we're just going to leave. There's only one last item to pick up, and it is the most important item, the long beam. 8E, there you go. Long beam is very helpful because it allows you to shoot long. In other Metroid categories, I believe it's just called, a beam. But, you know what they say, on long beam there's a little L, and the L stands for best, as everyone knows. But seriously speaking, though, the long beam will allow you to shoot enemies from a longer distance. It's not truly useful, as you can see. We've played the entire game without it. And when the 100% deaths task is the only place where it seems viable to pick up long beam at the start, it is a helpful item to grab as it allows you to use less missiles and actually shoot more than once. Since with missiles they act as the long beam in this category. So if you had long beam before, you'd actually be able to shoot more. Since missiles, you can only have one on the screen, which is why I see Scotty always bonking into these doors because he can't shoot more than one. But I mean, it's not truly important. It'd be nice to have, but it's it's here. So with that being said, now that we've picked up long beam, we have 100% of the items, and there's only one thing left to do, and that's to kill Mother Brain. L. The L stands for best. The Mother Brain fight is especially fun because there's just a lot of stuff happening. Since this is 100% and Scotty's fine on missiles, we don't have to farm for any missiles unless he feels like taking an extra safe, but I think he has like 9. He'll have like 80 something missiles going into the fight, which is way more than you need. There's a minimum of 73 missiles. There are 40 for the Zebatites, 32 for Mother Brain, and then 1 for the glass. So yeah, we'll have 11 minus 20. Yeah, 91. 91 going into the fight, which is much greater than the 73 required. Normally you want a couple extra, but like almost 20 over is plenty fine, especially for a player like Scotty. He'll be fine. There's a couple Metroids we'll have to freeze, but they won't be too important to us. We'll just blast on through them. The Mother Brain fight has a lot going on. When you see it, there'll be cannons shooting at you from the top, and a lot of Rinkas, the Cheerios, that are trying to attack you at all times. So you'll see Scotty trying to deal with the different lag, which is, there's a lot of, since there's so many sprites happening at once. Which we'll get into when we get to there, but Hondo's in a nice category too, because if you get grabbed by a Metroid, you can actually just use the bombs to get them off. In other categories, like, well, all the other categories besides Hondo, you have to use, you just die because you don't actually pick up bombs unless you're using extra safe strats. But Hondo, you'd actually have them, and it's nice. So this is the last hallway before the Mother Brain hallway. Ooh, yeah, you can actually clip through Metroids when they're frozen by just shooting them twice. It's a nice little tidbit, and it's helpful that when you're trying to get out of a pickle. Here's the Mother Brain room. Unfortunately, Scotty got not a great Rinka pattern since he got hit immediately, which isn't always the case. You can see there's cannon shooting. He'll be trying to do a couple unmorph jumps to get into the Zebatites as fast as he can. The Zebatites do respawn, which is annoying to deal with, but you do it. There's about 8. You do 8 shots per Zebatite, assuming you don't have to, reshoot them, which sometimes you just do. But most of this fight is really fighting through lag. Here we actually see Mother Brain herself just in her tank. And you'll see Scotty do a mixture of grouping the Rinkas together or freezing them if he feels like it, which he doesn't seem to, and that's fine. But the important part is grouping up the Rinkas together so you don't have to deal with them as much, and you can just pound Mother Brain with as many missiles as you can. The annoying part is this little cannon up here. He'll shoot you annoyingly. Thanks, grouping there. He'll do a damage boost with the ball to get back when he doesn't want to deal with Rinka damage, and now we're essentially done, besides the climb. Yes, the time might scare some people, but even casually, it's pretty easy to get there in time. You'll have to do like 10 of these different like little jump segments, but we're pretty much done. This has been Metroid 100%. We have grabbed all the items and killed all the important influences. So it's always nice, as you do in Metroid. And there we go, 45-17 or 18. We get to see Bikini Samus, even though we've been seeing Bikini Samus, but it's the good ending. GG to Scotty. That was an excellent run done by someone who I could not have asked more and better. Scotty is an excellent runner. You should really, I mean, if you haven't checked out Scotty, then you really should check out Scotty. He's a wonderful runner, and he showcased an excellent run. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll be leaving now. So thanks. Been a wonderful run, and I hope you all enjoyed. So look forward to whatever is next. I am out. Goodbye.